Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar today. So happy to have you with us. We have today a part two to our balcony inspection webinars. And of course, we brought with us again Gregory Carlos, who is the Vice President of Sales and Operations at DrBalcony. And he is going to go over a little bit of what we did in part one. So if you weren't at part one, don't worry at all. We are going to do a quick review and then we are going to dive in to some of the more detailed nuances of how to select the inspector. What does the inspection process look like? What should you expect? And then what can you do when you get those results? A little bit of that too. And then we'll also have, of course, some Q&A with our expert. Greg is very generous with his time, so we'll stay for a while answering your questions. And speaking of questions, if you have a question during the presentation at any point, please put your question in the Q&A box, not the chat. That helps us keep everything a lot more organized. Again, put your questions in the Q&A box, not the chat. We will be prioritizing the questions in the Q&A box first so that we can make sure we get to all of those in order of when they are submitted. Also, we are recording this whole thing, so if you have to leave early or you miss anything or you want to share the presentation, we will be emailing it to you tomorrow along with our speaker's contact information so you can get in touch with DrBalcony and Greg and figure out if you do need something maybe specific for your situation, or if you're wondering if this law even applies to you and you're still confused after the webinar. Greg and his team are really good at providing those free consults to make sure that you're doing everything you need to do to be in compliance. So we'll be sending that information your way after the webinar as well. Also, I want to tell you a little bit about Greg because he's been with us a few times and we always love having him, but I know he might be a new face to some of you. So he is a UC Riverside graduate, a distinguished representative of DrBalcony. He's played a pivotal role in enhancing awareness about SB 326 and SB 721. Those are the balcony inspection law ordinances. He's helped to improve those engineering inspections to really streamline the whole process and ultimately create safer environments through also collaboration with local jurisdictions, which is really helpful. So this is someone who has really seen many a balcony inspection and knows the ins and outs. So I'm so happy to have you with us, Greg. I really appreciate you coming on. And also, Greg wanted me to ask you all a little bit about yourselves. So if you could answer this first poll question here to select what best describes you, we can better tailor this conversation to you. So one of those laws, they do apply to HOAs. So we do have an HOA board member as an option. And then we also, of course, have our property owners. Most of you in the AAOA Association are property owners. Some of you might be managers, but all of you would benefit from knowing about this law. So let me go ahead and share here the results real quick so we can take a look here. Let's see. Someone asking in the chat, is this Zoom for the Your Event New California Law Updates for Property Managers, HOAs, and Landlords starts in 2 hours? Yes, probably. Betty, we have a part one that we did. This is the part two. But even if you weren't at part one, we're going to review a lot of that stuff again. So stick around. We're going to go over particularly the balcony inspection laws. And, I'll probably include the recording to part one if you all want to revisit some of those laws. In addition to the balcony laws, we also went over the security deposit law. We went over, rent reporting, the tenant screening side of things a little bit. So we'll definitely send that all to you in the follow-up email, which everyone is going to get automatically tomorrow. Okay, great. Yes, Betty, no worries. Stick around. We will send you an email tomorrow with the link to the previous webinar. Okay, so I'm going to share the results here, and it looks like actually we have more property managers today than owners. That's unusual. Usually we have more owners, so 46% property managers and 32% property owners. And then from there, lots of realtors and a split between HOAs and tenants there at the bottom. So very excited to have you all. And I think you'll all find out a little something new here from Greg's presentation. So let me go ahead and go back here to the next question, which is how many properties do you currently own or manage? So we have 1 to 2, 3 to 10, 10 to 50, 50 or more, or you don't manage or own any properties. Maybe you're a tenant or you're starting to look for a potential investing opportunity. So go ahead and place that in there. For AAOA, we're typically in the 10 to 50 range on average. Seeing lots below that, which is really great because this law does apply to really, in my opinion, pretty small operations. Every law is a little different in California. They might say, it only applies if you have so many units. So this is a great question to find out. A couple people in the chat putting in here. Anna Lilly, manager of 548 homes. Wow, that's a lot. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll. Here you go, Greg. Three
Really
to 10
balanced.
in the win here, but yeah, a little bit of everything. So
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, Greg, I'm gonna hand this off to you so you can get started with the presentation.
Of course. Thank you so much, Alexandra. I appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us today. Like Alexandra said, this is part two. I'm going to be covering all the items that we covered during part one as well, just because I know we have a mix of new attendees and attendees from the first part as well. I'm going to be going a little faster than usual over these parts, but if there's any questions, like Alexandra said, we'll go. I can go more into detail, over any items that I may have zoomed over at the end. And we're also going to have a couple of checklists that I know a lot of you have been wondering about, a lot of you have been messaging us about. So we're going to go over these checklists on how to choose not only an inspector, but also how to prepare for your inspection. So let's get started. So once again, I am Greg. I'm here on behalf of DrBalcony. We are California's number one engineering firm when it comes to balcony inspections for the new California ordinances SB 721 and SB 326. Let's get into it. Quick disclaimer, I am not a lawyer, right? This webinar is given to the best of our ability with the best of our knowledge. However, this is not legal advice, right? We encourage you to consult with a licensed professional or legal counsel, with any decisions that you make from this. By participating in this webinar, you acknowledge and agree that we are not responsible for any decisions you make or outcomes that may result from information shared. So once again, guys, just a quick little disclaimer, just because I'm not an attorney. All right. So who is DrBalcony? We are the one-stop shop for all of your balcony inspection needs. We've performed over 5,000 inspections in the state of California to comply with the SB 721 and SB 326. We are the leaders in the industry, having performed more than twice as many as any other company so far. We focus on compliance with different ordinances, and at the same time, we make sure that we always have the best price, right? So we have a 20% price beat guarantee where we are so confident in our pricing that if you do, for any reason, happen to find a better price than us, we will always beat that price by 20%. Apart from that, DrBalcony, you have no conflict of interest with us, just because we're engineers and architects. We're not contractors, so you know that we're not trying to find any reason to fail you just to win a construction project. That's not what we do. That's not what our business model is. And we're in the business of creating relationships and hopefully helping as many of you as possible comply. So let's get started, guys. Um, Really quickly, why you should learn about balcony inspection laws. It's really important that you understand SB 721 and SB 326 and the requirements. Which one of these laws you fall under. They are a little different. And you want to make sure that you're able to comply with these laws to protect your legal risk and at the same time, protect your tenants and your residents, family members, whoever lives at these properties. So, yeah. How big of a concern are these laws and, balcony safety and exterior elevated element safety? So it is a really big concern. Annually, there are over 6,000 injuries that happen in relations to exterior elevated element, uh, related incidents. There is a 21% increase annually on balcony and deck failures. There are over 550 trauma center admissions annually as well from exterior elevated element related failures. And tragically, about 140 children die annually from same type of failures as well. And according to a report by the California State Senate Committee on Housing, more than 90% of balcony failures over the last 20 years involved wood deterioration. And that's what these ordinances are meant to look at. That's what we're going to be inspecting for. And that's what's going to be mentioned on your report as well. So wood deterioration is a big reason of why we're here. And hopefully we can catch any signs that are going to lead to any sort of injury or hopefully minimize these occurrences. So we have a quick video for you. uh, Please keep in mind these are only incidents that have been caught on camera, right? One can only imagine how many have not been caught on camera. So this first one that we see here, that's going to be the Berkeley incident. That's going to be the one that actually started it all. And we'll get more into that in just a second. But these are all really scary incidents that obviously we want to try and avoid, right? We always think it's not going to happen to us, but these incidents are happening throughout our communities, right? This man that we just saw jumping rope, there was actually a similar incident that just occurred in Vista about a week ago or so. The one that's playing right now, that's actually the Malibu incident that happened a few years back. And this one right here on ABC 7 News is actually from just this February in LA. So it's in our backyard at least. I know we have people from all over California at this webinar, but here in Tustin, this is about 20 minutes from my home, right? So really, really, it is a big issue, and we're trying to minimize these collapses and these incidents, and hopefully we can help with this. So the 2015 Berkeley incident, well, why did these laws even start? So in 2015, tragically, 13 young adults fell 40 feet to the ground from a collapsed balcony, where six of these young adults were killed, and the other seven were seriously injured. Now, after further investigation into what happened and what the root of the incident was, um, there was a lot of dry rot, right? They found a lot of dry rot, and that was the reason that this balcony collapsed. The balcony and the building were only about 9 years old, so a lot of people would consider that a fairly new building, right? That's to put that into context, that's a building that uh, right now would be built in 2016, right? So a lot of people would consider that a pretty recent building, and it was really shocking that so much dry rot could accumulate, uh, to where a tragedy like this could occur. But that's why these inspection laws are in place now. And the most recent one is that 2025 Silver Lake balcony collapse. So February 2025, I believe it was February 15th or 16th. Uh, Four people were hanging out on their balcony with the dog, and tragically that balcony collapsed as well. Now, thankfully, there was a second floor balcony because this balcony was on third floor that stopped that fall and prevented any, big tragedy from occurring. There was only one person that had a broken arm. That was the worst injury that they suffered. But if it wasn't for that second floor balcony, things could have easily gone south, and we'd be talking about something similar to the 2015 Berkeley balcony collapse, right? And for a lot of people that say, hey, well, in that 2015 Berkeley balcony collapse, why are there 13 young adults on a building, right? That's something that I hear a lot. And it really sucks because it's, you know, when you're on a balcony, you're not thinking about these things, right? Well, the 2025 Silver Lake incident, there was only four people and a dog, right? And that balcony is huge, right? It can easily support a lot more than that. A lot of people put grills on their balconies. A lot of people put plants, pots, whatever it may be. And these balconies are meant to sustain a lot of weight. But obviously, if they're not inspected and they're not treated accordingly, there's going to be things like this that occur. So, a quick overview over the two laws and what the differences are. So, both of the laws apply to three more units. Where they differ are that SB 721 is for multifamily apartments, and the deadline was originally last year. It was December 31st, 2024, but it was extended 1 year, and the deadline is now the end of this year, December 31st, 2025. Additionally, there has to be a 15% sample size for inspections of each exterior elevated element type. So if you have 100 balconies, 100 walkways, 100 stairways, you're going to have 15 of those inspected minimum. Additionally, the people that can do these inspections, a structural engineer, an architect, a general contractor, certified home inspector, and we're going to get into this a little more later when we go through those checklists on how to choose your inspector. But you also have the SB 326, which applies to condominiums and HOAs. The deadline for that was December 31st, 2024. And there was a lot of confusion when the SB 721 was extended. A lot of HOAs mistakenly believed that the deadline was also extended for them, but it was not. So if you are part of an HOA or you know someone that's at an HOA and they have not had their inspections, they're not in compliance. And there's a lot of consequences. There's uh, insurances dropping, people that live at an HOA. There's, uh, inability to sell your condo and your unit. So that deadline has passed. If you live at a condo, please make sure you've had your inspection or book that as soon as you can. For the condos, you have to have a 95% confidence rate. That's what the law reads. Typically, a company is going to inspect all exterior elevated elements. That's what we do here at DrBalcony. And you have to have this inspection every 9 years. So it is a much more thorough inspection where nearly every exterior elevated element is going to be inspected as opposed to the SB 721 where it's only 15%. But because of this, you only have to have this inspection every 9 years as opposed to every 6 years for the SB 721. And the only people that can do these inspections are structural engineers and architects, right? And so, yeah. What are exterior elevated elements? So a lot of people know these laws as the balcony inspection laws, right? But they're not just applicable for balconies. They're anything that's 6 feet above the ground, has a walking surface meant to be walked on, and relies partially or wholly on wood for structural stability or support. So anything like balconies, walkways, decks, porches, stairs, landings, as long as it has wood, as long as it's 6 feet above the ground, as long as it's meant to be walked on, it needs an inspection, right? So we have these examples on the right. I really like this picture because it shows four types of examples. So those balconies on the left side, they're cantilevered. Everyone's in agreement, no doubt about it. Those are going to need inspections, right? When you picture balconies, that's what you think of, right? Now, on the very right side, you're going to have these other balconies that are not, sticking out per se from the building. So these cause a lot of confusion. A lot of people believe, hey, these don't require an inspection because they're not sticking out like the cantilevered balconies on the left side. But they're still exterior elevated elements. They still meet every single criteria. They're 6 feet above the ground. They have a walking surface. They're meant to be walked on. They rely on wood. And they're still more than anything exposed to the natural elements, right? And this is what this law is about. This law is about, protecting everyone. It's about safety, and because they're still exposed to the natural elements, they still have, they still require that inspection. So, definitely make sure that if you have that type of balcony, you're also getting that checked out. Now, the balconies in the middle that you see in the red are going to be Juliet balconies, no walking surface. They're purely for decoration. And, something like that definitely doesn't have to get inspected. Same thing with the roof overhang on at the very top, though it may be on the exterior, have a walking surface. It's not meant to be walked on, and therefore no inspection is required. Few examples of exterior elevated elements. So I really like this photo because On the very left side, you're going to have unexposed exterior elevated element, right? This is going to be completely wooden. You're able to see the joist under it. So this inspection is typically going to be purely visual. There may be a moisture meter test that's used, but this is going to be a really quick and simple inspection, right? Typically, if there's any sort of rotting or deterioration, you can go check it out yourself, right? As far as the walkway in the middle, this is more of your traditional enclosed exterior elevated element. So there's concrete on top, there's stucco on the bottom. Inside of that stucco, there's going to be wood, right? All the joists are going to be wood. The entire structure is going to be wood on the inside, right? The stucco is just enclosing that wood. So for this type of inspection, there's different methods that can be used. What Dr. Balcony uses is our patented inspection method, where we're going to insert small holes about the size of a nickel underneath that balcony or exterior elevated element, walkway, whatever it may be. And we're going to insert a small borescope camera, take detailed images. These images are going to be presented to you during your inspection report. So that way, if we see some sort of rotting or deterioration or any other issues, you're going to be able to see that on your report as well, right? So uh, this inspection is going to be a little more complex. It's going to take a little more time, but definitely something that needs to be inspected as well. And then the stairway and the walkway on the very right, something like this is actually going to be exempt just because it's purely concrete and metal. There's no type of wood whatsoever on these elements, and therefore they're going to be exempt. Once again, if there's no wood, whether it be exposed or enclosed, you're going to be exempt for any sort of inspection. Some warning signs to look for, right? Especially if you have a exposed exterior elevated element, something that may show you, hey, I'm probably going to fail and I need to get this inspection, right now. Any cracks, rust, unstable railings, signs of water intrusion, and any properties adjacent to bodies of water, we've really found that just because of moisture buildup in the air, it causes condensation and eventually it's going to just wear out your exterior elevated elements a little quicker than usual. Um, that and also something that I've seen a lot is balconies that have a lot of plants, right? As owners or managers, you've seen all types of tenants and uh, you know, I have my own grandmother from experience, right? She has a whole garden on her balcony where she's got all types of plants and she waters them daily. And this additional weight and apart from all that water that just builds up on the balcony, this actually, typically causes rot as well and deterioration. And you have to be really careful with something like that, right? Especially if there's any sort of cracks that water is going to seep in and eventually it's going to get deeper and deeper and it could cause damage to the interior of the balcony as well. So those would be my warning signs. So the typical inspection process, what it is. So once again, on the left side, I really like this example because this property right here, there was about 20 exterior elevated elements, 20 balconies that were almost identical. And from the exterior, from purely the visual inspection, there were actually no warning signs, right? So just because you have no warning signs doesn't mean you don't need an inspection. So this balcony had no warning signs. It looked completely fine from the exterior. The owners had recently painted them, and therefore, when we arrived to the property, we thought, hey, these look great from the exterior. However, once we did our actual borescope method and we looked inside, we saw that there's quite a bit of rotting, right? And as you can see from that second photo, it was completely rotted. So we did help these owners with their permitting process as well. And we created the plans and we submitted them to the city. We made sure their plans got approved. Once their plans and permits were approved, they were able to hire a contractor and they were able to fix it up. And now it looks as it does in the on the picture on the right, right? The third photo, right? As you can see, we were able to save some elements of that original balcony, right? So even though it was pretty rotted, there's a million ways to fix any sort of issue with your balcony or exterior elevated elements, and there's always going to be something that's a little more simple than redoing that entire balcony, right? Rarely have we had a project where we need to completely scrap the exterior elevated element and create an entirely new one. With our permit application process, we're typically going to, try to find the simplest solution. In this case, it was joist sistering, and hopefully save you some time and money as well. So the typical inspection process, I'm going to skim over this, but you're going to receive a free proposal from a company. Dr. Balcony obviously does this free of charge. So you call someone up, they determine how many exterior elevated elements you have and how many have to be inspected for compliance. Once again, if the deck is open, as we saw with that first little landing a few slides ago, it's going to be a purely visual inspection, and there's going to be perhaps a probing of a moisture meter or whatever else is needed, but it's going to be mainly visual. If the exterior elevated element is covered, there's going to be that small drilling that we talked about. They're going to drill small holes about the size of an inch, about the size of a nickel in diameter, and they're going to drill about 2 to 3 inches deep as soon as they can get inside of that stucco. And they're going to insert a small borescope camera, take detailed images of what's inside of that balcony, and those are going to be presented to you during your, in your report, which is going to be sent to you right after. So what does the inspection report have to include, right? There are certain items that have to be included in these reports, right? We've seen all types of reports, little one sentence report that is signed. So please, if you're going to go with whichever company, just make sure that their reports are fully compliant, right? There has to be an identification of all exterior elevated elements. There has to be a detailed evaluation. Photos are required, right? They have to tell you the current physical condition, whether it's a pass, whether it's a non-emergency, whether it's an emergency failure. They have to give you the expected future performance and life expectancy of the exterior elevated elements, maintenance recommendations, and the most important thing is that it has to be stamped and signed, or stamped or signed by a licensed, engineer, architect, whoever's doing your inspection, right? So make sure that you have that stamp and that it's signed, right? So that way, they're taking on that liability. And at the same time, make sure you have those detailed photos, right? Those are the two biggest things that I always tell someone, just because those photos, someone can tell you, hey, your balcony is rotted, but if you don't have those photos, then why should you believe them, right? And that's why these photos are necessary and required on these reports. So real quickly, if you do have a passing inspection, right, which a lot of you hopefully will, you're completely in compliance for the next 6 to 9 years, right? So say you do your inspection and you pass, you're all good. You have to keep that inspection report in your just keep that safe somewhere where you can retrieve it for 2 cycles. So it's 12 years for apartments and 18 years for condominiums, right? And the city's going to eventually ask for those reports. They're not asking for them at this time. They're only asking for failing reports. But passing reports, you have to be able to show that they were dated before the deadline, right? So you don't suffer any sort of penalties. So for non-emergency failures, this is the most common type of failure. This means, hey, there's no immediate threat, but there are issues that have to be addressed in order to verify the safety of these exterior elevated elements for the next 6 to 9 years. So if you have a non-emergency condition, then you have the inspector actually has 45 days from the inspection to give you that report. After that, you have 120 days to apply for any necessary permits. Cities are taking a couple of months right now to approve permits just because they're so backed up and so busy with these inspections and everyone trying to fix their balconies and walkways at this time. And then after that permit is approved and granted by the city, you actually have another 120 days to do the actual construction work. And sometimes they'll even give you an extra extension of 30 to 60 days, right? So you're looking at potentially about a year from when you do your inspection to when you actually have to complete the work. So you do have quite a bit of time. Now, if you have an emergency failure and you do have something that's posing an immediate threat, then obviously that's going to have a much more compact timeline. You're going to have to receive that report within 15 days of report completion. Immediate preventative measures must be taken. So sometimes you're going to have to install temporary shoring. Other times you're maybe going to have to prevent access. Whatever it may be, that should be listed on your report, but you know, sometimes both, right? The more the merrier when it comes to these sort of things, because you want to make sure that all tenants are as safe as possible, and you want to protect your liability as well. So after that, you should apply for permits within 15 to 30 days. And then once those permits are granted, you should begin the work immediately, right? So you do have a much shorter timeline, and just make sure that you're complying with every step here as well. So, as mentioned, there is a permit application process, right? This is a three-step process. First, you're going to have the inspection. After that, you're going to have the permit application that has to be done. So, typically, if you have anything structurally wrong with your exterior elevated element, the city is going to ask that plans or designs that show how you're going to fix these exterior elevated elements be provided in order for them to grant you a permit, right? So, you're not going to just be able to go in yourself and apply for that permit and fix your balcony, right? The law does say that all necessary permits for repair or replacement shall be obtained from local jurisdiction. So make sure that you have permits before you begin any sort of work, or else you're going to have to scrap that work and do the entire process over again. So typically you're going to hire an engineer or an architect, or maybe your contractor has an engineer or architect that they know. They're going to create these plans. They're going to submit them to the city. They're going to do a little back and forth with the city. The way that DrBalcony does it is that we do a back and forth with the city, trying to make this the simplest project possible, and at the same time the safest and most efficient project possible. Once we finish that back and forth with the city, your plans are actually an RTI, which is ready to issue approval, and the permit is going to be an RTI, which is ready to be issued, right? Once you have this permit in the RTI stage, then at that time you can hire a licensed contractor. They can pull the permit from the city, and the contractor should just follow the steps on those plans and designs, and they're going to complete the work. So once again, just make sure that you're doing the entire three-step process. It's going to be one, the inspection, two, the permits, and three, the construction, right? If you skip any of these uh steps, you can face a variety of consequences. What the law says is that you can face fines of $100 to $500 per day based on your local jurisdiction, per day that you miss the deadline for inspection, per day that you miss your deadline for the permit application. So these are really hefty fines. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't seen the $500 per day one enforced, but you don't want to take the risk. What I have been seeing a lot is smaller fines, and I have been seeing uh, insurance companies dropping quite a few people, especially people that are part of HOAs right now that have not done their inspections. So I've definitely seen a lot of that. Additionally, I've seen a lot of people who are having trouble selling their property because they're unable to receive refinance, or buyers are not able to receive loans on their actual condo or unit, just because they're not in compliance with this law. So there are a variety of consequences, and this is going to happen to apartment owners next year if you don't comply. So make sure that that you're following the entire process. Once again, don't try to skip those permits or else you're going to have to restart the whole process and it's going to just be more of a mess. Some additional reasons, once again, if you have a failure, typically it's going to be a non-emergency. You're going to have a whole year before you have to actually complete the work from the day that the inspection is done. So budgeting purposes, right? Plan ahead. I know it can be something that's daunting and scary for a lot of you, especially if you believe that you may fail. But hey, have your inspection at least know this is what I'm going to have to work on, right? This is what I have to plan for. You don't know until you have that inspection. Additionally, safety for everyone, right? This is what these laws were made for. You want to protect your liability. Any sort of balcony collapse or injury is going to result in a much bigger, lawsuit than these inspections will ever, cost you. Additionally, you want to make sure that everything's working correctly, and you want to make sure everyone's as safe as possible. So, yeah. Now, before we get into the balcony inspection checklist, sorry I went through that so quickly there, but Alexandra, I believe we had a couple more poll questions, correct? Uh,
Yes, correct. So have you already conducted your balcony inspections? Yes, currently in progress, or no, not yet. I think the last time we did the part one here last week, a lot of people were currently in progress, which was good. Um, However, I'm seeing actually on this one, we have fewer than last time currently in progress, and more that haven't done it yet. So let me give you all just a few more seconds here to participate. Anna Lily says, yes, done last year. Great. You're ahead of it. That's awesome. Unless you're an HOA, then you're behind.
yep.
So let me go ahead and end the poll here and share the results. Okay. So it looks like 47% of you said not yet, and 36% yes, and 17% currently in progress. And
Perfect.
the next question as well is if you have any exterior elevated elements. So I definitely noticed some confusion in the Q&A as to what is an exterior elevated element. Lots of questions there. And then also lots of questions around what is 3 units, right? Do they have to all be under the same roof? Do they like, how do you classify that? So we will get into that in a bit in the Q&A section of this presentation. Also, Rolanda here in the Q&A asking if we're going to send a copy. Yes, we will be sending the slides. We'll be sending the full recording and, of course, Dr. Balcony and Greg's information so you can connect with them if you're still not sure if this law applies to you or if you need help with your inspection. Okay, so let me go ahead and stop here the poll and share the results. Looks like 56% of you said that yes, you have 1 to 10 exterior elevated elements. 24% have 11 to 30 or more exterior elevated elements. 9% don't, and 11% don't know. So, again, those of you who said don't know, definitely go ahead and you see the email here on the slide, info@drbalcony.com. There's a phone number. Call them up. They'll tell you right away if it is something that it does apply to you. So, I'll let you get back to it, Greg.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we're going to go over the balcony inspection checklist. Uh, what you should look for or what's going to be looked at during your actual inspection. Now, obviously you want to make sure that before your inspection, you clear your balcony, right? You review your property and make sure that everything is uh, up to date. Let the something that I see often is we're hired for a property and the owner tells us, yeah, it's just one building, right? I know a lot of people manage a lot of buildings or they own a lot of different properties and they forget, hey, well, actually this one's two identical buildings next to each other, right? So make sure that all of that information is accurate. You want to check the structure as well, look for any sort of cracks, rot, loose parts, signs of damage, as we mentioned earlier. You want to inspect your decking, ensure that the surfaces are stable and no one's going to trip on them. Make sure that no one's going to fall through that balcony when it's being inspected, right? And then waterproofing, right? You can check the membranes, drainage, signs of leaks if you want to be proactive. You can examine your railings if you'd like, confirm that they're the proper height, spacing, and sturdiness. Now, a lot of you are going to be grandfathered in, but if you just want to update it for safety, that's something that'd be great as well. And then check electrical, right? You want to inspect lights and outlets, make sure that they're safe as well. So now there is an actual checklist, and this is on our Dr. Balcony page. Alexandra, can you confirm real quick? Are you able to see this checklist?
Yes, looks good to me.
Perfect. So this is on our drbalcony.com website. You can also email us at info@drbalcony.com and we can send you both these checklists. But this is a downloadable checklist. Once again, you're able to confirm your building type, make sure that the inspector has the correct type of building, whether it's an HOA or a 721, just because these inspections do differ just a bit. Make sure they have the most accurate information, that their exterior elevated elements are correct, how many walkways, balconies are going to need to be available and need to be inspected during these actual inspections, right? If you want to be proactive and see, hey, are there any sort of issues that may be found, right? Now, I will preach a bit of precaution with this because a lot of people say, hey, well, what if I just completely repair my balcony or my exterior elevated element before, having the inspection? What I tell people is having a failing inspection is not the end of the world, right? It's actually not as bad as it sounds. So you don't have to have an inspection after the repairs, right? That shows, hey, I'm passing now. Uh, Typically, what I like to say is if you find rot at this moment and you have to replace it, you're still going to have to go through that entire permitting process. You're still going to have to do the same exact thing that you would have to do if you have a failing, report or um, however, what I have seen is people that try to fix these issues, but because there wasn't an inspection prior to checking uh, or fixing these issues, they'll actually not fix them appropriately, or they'll fix the wrong thing that they thought, hey, this is why we're going to fail. So I always recommend have that inspection first. If you have a failure, oh well, as long as you're going to comply and address the issues, you have nothing to worry about, right? It's better than hiring a contractor, getting these items fixed, and then still failing, having to get maybe things that you weren't aware of before fixed again. So, uh, but however, if you do want to just look for yourself before your inspection and kind of see what's going to be looked at during the inspection, we do have a list here. Connections, make sure that railing isn't too unstable. Check for any, big cracks. If there's something that's hairline, something that's tiny, you can fill that in, right? You can sand it in. You can make sure that it's addressed yourself, right? But if it's something that's a little deeper, something that uh, is going to allow moisture penetration into the interior of your exterior elevated element, then at that point you want to, that's going to be something that's going to have to be addressed. You're going to want to check the walking surfaces, any cracking on the paint, any loose tiles. Um, Make sure that there's no damage on the treads or the risers on the stairways, right? Uh, but yeah, there's an entire list. I'm not going to go through each one by one. I'm just kind of mentioning the most common items that we see. Rust and corrosion, that's something that we're asked about a lot. If it's excessive, then that's something that's going to be marked on your report. If it's very light, if it's something that can just be cleaned, right? We're just going to put maintenance recommendations, but you likely wouldn't fail because of something like that. So, uh, we do have this checklist for you, but at the same time, make sure that you are also being realistic with how severe these items are. So if you have, um, you can even have rot that is a non-emergency, or you can have rot that's an emergency. So it's just all dependent on how severe the issue is. And with that being said, I'm going to move on to the next slide, which is going to be the balcony inspector checklist, right? So, how do you choose a balcony inspector? Obviously, we want you to choose DrBalcony, right? We cover all of California. However, if for some reason you maybe choose not to go with us, make sure that you're checking the inspector's credentials, right? Ensure that they have active licenses to do these inspections, right? Because a lot of people's licenses may be expired, right? The state of California has an online database where you can look up any sort of license, make sure that it's active, make sure that that you know the law, which law applies to you, right? There's different people that can do the SB 721 versus the SB 326 inspections. You want to make sure that you have the inspector that's able to do your type of inspection. A certified home inspector can't do a 326 inspection, for example, so you may hire a certified home inspector and they say, yeah, I can do balcony inspections, but if it's not going to be a valid SB 326 report. So make sure that you're looking at that as well. Clarify the make sure that they clarify the scope of work, whether it's going to be something that's visual, whether it's going to be something that's a bit more intrusive, right? People have different inspection methods. Some people are going to open up the entire bottom of your balcony, right? They're going to cut everything open and they're going to look at it. Other people like us are going to do the small holes, right? We like to be as minimally invasive as possible, but at the same time, we don't want to just make it visual because as we saw in that example earlier, there's issues that may not be revealed from a visual inspection that may be revealed during the drilling. So make sure that you know what methods of inspection they're going to use. Maybe ask for a sample report, right? That way you see that their reports are detailed and you're not just going to have a one-page report that's going to maybe not be stamped, maybe not be signed, right? Confirm pricing. Make sure that the quotes don't include any potential additional pricing. We have seen that a lot where companies that are doing purely visual inspections will say, there's a little quote at the bottom because we do have the price match guarantee. So a lot of people send these quotes to us, and we'll see a little quote at the bottom that say any necessary drilling or any necessary intrusive testing is going to be separate and additional. So just look at that before signing any sort of contract as well. Verify their reputation, right? Check for reviews online. You can look at Google reviews. We've got a bunch of reviews on there. I believe we have nearly 200 reviews. Call ask for support, right? Ask about, hey, are you going to be able to review this report with me after? Are you going to be able to give me this report in a timely manner, right? Um, so yeah, let's get into this checklist, guys. Once again, you do have a downloadable checklist on our website, or you can email us at info@drbalcony.com. But it is a checklist that's going to more into detail, go over what we just mentioned, right? Verify their qualifications, their experience. Something really big about the experience is that the SB 721 law actually mentions, and I believe the SB 326 as well, that the inspector should have 5 years of experience in the field, right, to be able to do these inspections. So they should have um, SB 721, SB 326 related knowledge, with balconies, with building them, inspecting them, whatever it may be. But this is what the law itself says, right? So make sure that they have the 5 years experience in the field. With these sorts of structures, you don't want to have, a contractor that has never done a balcony before inspecting your balcony, right? So uh, yeah, make sure that they're in knowledge of all the regulations, that they're going to do the proper percentages, that they're going to, meet all the regulations of the SB 721, SB 326. As mentioned, any contractor can do these inspections, but if they've never done one before, if maybe their inspections are a little more limited, they may not give you the most compliant report as well. So yeah, really quickly, guys, here's the entire list. This is going to be available on drbalcony.com, or you can email us for that. All right. So, really quickly, I'm going to end it off with why I choose DrBalcony. Once again, we're inspection industry disruptors. We will beat any price, right? Best price guarantee. We've got the quickest report turnaround time. We've got all these great value propositions, three-step quality control process. You're going to have your field operator looking at your report. He's going to send it over to our engineering team, who's going to look at the report. Then you're going to have our senior architect or our senior PE looking at the report, stamping it off, and making sure that everything's going to be all good before that report is sent over to you. Additionally, we've completed, I know it says 4,000, but right now we're at actually over 5,000 inspections throughout the state of California. We do the entire state of California from San Diego to Redding. We have a quick scheduling, right? We can schedule you anywhere from about 10 days from now till if you want to wait till the end of the year, feel free to call us and save your spot. We've got some people that are booked right now for November, for October. So, we can schedule you for any time that you'd like. We have the quickest report turnaround time in about 3 days right now. So if you have an inspection, you can expect your report in about 3 days or so. We use AI to identify defects that may not be apparent to the human eye, right? And to make sure that we didn't miss anything, and at the same time give you the most efficient, the cleanest, and the most accurate reports. And lastly, the no conflict of interest, right? Once again, we're engineers and architects. We're not contractors, so you have no conflict of interest, and you can trust our findings. We're not going to find something just to get more business from you during the construction portion. Okay. And I believe that's it as far as Dr. Balcony, guys. There is one more thing that I'm going to talk about just because this is something that we have been asked about quite a bit. Us being in the industry of helping homeowners and property managers with compliance. We asked, hey, what else can we help you with, right? What else is a concern? What's something that you're struggling with? And our friends gave us this feedback. Hey, there's this new deposit law that's coming up. So this is our new app that we just launched, right? It's meant to comply with the AB 2801. For those of you who don't know, I'll go over it really quickly. There is a new tenant deposit law that began April 1st, 2025. There's a second deadline on July 1st, 2025, where basically you're going to have to take photos before and after people move in and out of your units, just to make sure that the any sort of deductions that you're taking from their deposits are made appropriately and uh, you can show, hey, if you're charging someone $1,000 from the deposit for running your carpet, you're going to have to provide photos of that, right? So we created deposit proof. This is going to be the premier app for AB 2801 compliance, right? You can have your tenants upload photos for you if you allow them, or you can upload the photos yourself. But it's meant to be really simple and really straightforward to use just for this compliance for these ordinances. It's going to be really affordable down the line. It's going to be maybe $1 or two per unit. But you are going to have the first 6 months free for all units if you book an inspection with DrBalcony. So this is something that we're offering. We'd love your feedback. We'd love for you all to try it out. And this is, like I said, something that's new. Right. So it's going to be really simple to use, and hopefully we can help a lot of you achieve compliance with this ordinance as well. And with that being said, I'll hand it off to Alexandra for Q&A, but we are offering 25% off your balcony inspections for our 4th of July promo. Once again, you're going to receive 6 months free on deposit proof and a free smart water bottle as well.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you so much for going over all of that. This is a fantastic offer. So I told Greg for this webinar, I'm like, you have to keep it up a little longer for people to see. We are going to include this offer also in the follow-up email tomorrow, which will also have the recording and the slides and Greg's contact information. If you have further questions, you can also schedule that consult with them if you need to get an assessment. So, also, another easy way to do this would be to just say yes to this poll question that I just launched. So, if you do say yes here to getting that free proposal, you are also qualified for these really good discounts. And I'm just so happy that you started something for deposit proof. It's perfect timing. Literally today, that law goes into effect. And it is something that you probably should be doing through a software that's really going to help you just stay in compliance in a worst case scenario. It's going to be really easy for you to show, what the security deposit situation is. So I'm glad that you have that available as well. I'll leave that up for a little longer and go through the questions here in the Q&A. So Mike was asking here a couple questions. It says a two-story duplex built in the 1950s, immediately next to a single-story cottage. Um, they're attached at the roof line on one side. Is that technically a three-unit building? So what do you all do in those situations when you have, someone asking something like this? You ask them to send pictures? Is there like what's the Dr. Balcony kind of take on it?
So we receive this question probably more than any other question from clients, right? Just because
Yeah.
there's so many situations similar to this. So what sucks about this law is that the state made it, but they gave all enforcing power to your local jurisdiction. So
Mm.
believe it or not, different jurisdictions have given us different answers for this, right? Some people are saying, "Hey, no, they don't have to do these inspections." Other people are saying, "Hey, well, this does qualify. There are three units on the same APN, the same assessor parcel number, and therefore they have to, get this inspection done." Especially because it's connected through the roof, like he mentioned, I would say yes, this is subject to the inspection. If you want to be 100% sure, I would ask your local jurisdiction. At the end of the day, they're the only ones that can enforce any sort of penalties for not having these inspections done. But my recommendation would be yes, this would be subject to an inspection.
Okay. Well, that is actually an interesting take. I would have thought no, because they're separate. But again, it doesn't matter what we think. It matters what the city thinks, right?
Yeah.
So Sandra asking, what if a community has decking on piers overviewing a lake? There are two buildings, 5 units each, that have decking on pier post. So I
I
guess
would, yeah, I
if it's
would,
elevated.
yeah, as long as it's elevated over 6 feet above the ground, right? Remember, there's the rules of what qualifies as an exterior elevated element, 6 feet above the ground, walking surface meant to be walked on, and wood, right? If it meets these standards, I would say yes. And from what I'm imagining in my head right now, I would say yes.
Okay. Melinda in the chat says Clemmer and Company is already using your services for inspections. You're awesome. So nice to
I
see that.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Nelia asking, does this apply to patios?
Yes, patios as well, as long as they're 6 feet above the ground, walking surface meant to be walked on, rely on wood, and more than 3 units.
Perfect. Grace asking, do the balconies need to extend outside of the building structure? That is, if the balcony is flush with the building, do we still need the inspection?
So I think you're referring to something as seen on the photo here at the very right. So yes, something like this does need the inspection, right? Um, I know it's the same answer I've given for the last two, but if it's 6 feet above the ground, walking surface meant to be walked on and relies on wood, it's going to need an inspection. It's still exposed to the natural elements, right? Rain can still uh, fall on this, it can still rot. So yes, it needs to have an inspection.
Yeah, and Randy was asking, what if the Juliet balcony has an opening like a sliding window or railing inspection?
So if you have a sliding window, uh, typically, well, if it's a window and it's not meant to be walked on, then no, right? But if it's a sliding door, and I know sometimes those balconies can be a little smaller, but if it's a sliding door, then that means it's probably meant to be walked on. And at that point, it's going to not be Juliet, it's going to need an inspection.
Hmm, good point. Um, Andrew asking, is the inspection invasive?
Minimally. So, there has to be a balance, right? So once again, if you have a purely visual inspection, you may not be able to uh identify all defects properly, right? And also, if you have someone opening up the entire bottom of your exterior elevated element or balcony, you may not have had to make a grand old opening and you actually end up passing, right? So what we do is we're doing the small holes about the size of a nickel, drilling those about 2 inches deep into the bottom of your balcony and inserting that borescope camera. We're gonna plug those holes up after, and yeah, it's gonna be minimally invasive.
Great. Just so everyone knows, I'm going to reiterate, I'm going into the Q&A, not the chat, to answer questions in the order that they were submitted. So if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A box, not the chat. Robert asking, I have a 4-unit building with 2 balconies. It was inspected a couple of years ago. When should it be done again?
6 years. So
Okay.
if it's a 4 unit, 6 years.
Okay. How asking, does the single house with 2 stories and balcony meet balcony inspection to comply with the law? Need balcony inspection.
No, if it's a single house, it has to be 3 or more units, so would not require an inspection.
Okay. Another one similar from Melinda, 6 units, 2 different addresses though, on the same lot. Should the 2 units that are elevated be inspected?
Yeah, yeah. So
Mhm.
if they're on the same lot, I know it's different addresses, should still be inspected.
Yes. Jean also similarly asking, are these only for 3+ multifamily units? Does this also apply for separate units uh, to SFD or separate units, multiple units, ground level or 2-story SFD? I think was that single family development, perhaps?
Yeah, I think single
Yeah.
family dwelling but
Mm.
it's so yeah, if they're I'm guessing part of an HOA, right? If there's more than 3 units, if it's just a normal single family dwelling, right, and it doesn't have more than 3 units, then no. But if you are part of an HOA and that HOA has more than 3 units and they're all 2 stories and they all have a balcony or two, then yes, that would require an inspection.
Okay. Kent asking, I'm an owner of a 5-unit multifamily apartment building, and I am a general contractor B1. Can I do my own inspections?
Oof. I honestly wouldn't know the answer to that,
Hmm.
right? I'd ask your local jurisdiction. I would imagine there's a bit of a conflict of interest with doing your own inspections,
Yeah,
but
I could
yeah,
see that.
but I haven't had that question before, so
Hmm.
not really sure, honestly.
Okay, we'll check with the city and see. Randy saying, I'm an aluminum railing dealer in SoCal. So can you address any railing requirements as part of your inspection?
Yeah, you should always check for uh, railings, making sure that the railings are stable, that there's not extreme corrosion, right? With our drilling method, we're going to drill particularly close to where that railing connection is made to the balcony or the walkway. We want to make sure that those connections are still stable and rust, I know doesn't seem like the biggest deal, but over time, especially, it can, if not treated, it'll cause corrosion. Eventually, that corrosion, if it becomes severe enough, is going to cause instability, and that's going to cause an unstable railing. So, definitely part of our inspection as well.
Bijan asking, what's the typical cost of an inspection of 10 balcony, a 10 unit, 10 balcony building, and certification in Northern California, Bay Area?
Is it 326 or 721? Because that does differ.
Okay.
If it's a 721, our typical inspection price starts anywhere from, it also depends on how big they are. So sorry for being a bit vague, but I would guess anywhere from, 800 to 1100, right? If it's a 326, it depends on a lot more variables. So just give us a call, right? And once again, we still have that best price guarantee. So any sort of bid that you are able to receive, or maybe if you have received, we'll always beat that by 20%. So yeah.
Great. Okay, Melinda was asking, who do I contact to find out if a certain property is required to have the inspection? I would say Dr. Balcony, but also, as you've been saying, the city, right? To
Yeah.
find out. Okay, great. Mike asking, I know that buildings with three or more units with the EEEs are subject to SB 721. I have a property that has, oh, I think we already answered this one. He put it in more than once. So I'll go ahead and take that out. Jose, does this apply to balconies that are a concrete floor, no wood, but it has a steel hand railing?
No, don't believe so. If there's no wood at all, if it's completely metal and
There has to be
concrete, you're gonna
some
be
wood.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eloy asking, is there government assistance to help owners pay for balcony repairs?
I haven't heard of anything yet. Um, Honestly, not something that I would know of, just because we focus mainly on the inspection portion
Yeah.
and the permitting portion, and those aren't the most expensive, right? I know the construction is what gets a little more up there, so nothing that I'm aware of, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard of anything either on our end. Mark asking, do you have a lower cost visual only inspection option with no scope?
Typically, no. We're always going to recommend the drilling method, right? And now, if you know, find a competitor, right, and they're happen to be a lower cost, right, we'll still beat that, right? But we always recommend the drilling. So at this time, no. But if that's something that you're maybe, you want to give us a call and give us your point on why maybe you don't need a drilling, or maybe they're exposed, and that's why you don't need drilling. Give us a call, and yeah, we can definitely work with you on the pricing as well.
Great. Stella has a little long of a question. I'll go over this. She says she had her balcony inspection.
Okay.
However, the civil engineer's load calculation report has been hung up in the planning commission for the last month, cutting into my timeline to get the balcony repaired or construction of a new balcony done. At this point, I think I only have 80 days left to complete the balcony construction. Is that true? Or do I have 120 days after the civil engineer's report leaves the permit office?
So the report has to be granted to you within 45 days from the engineer. Once the report is given to you, you have to apply for permits within 120 days. So based on the language of the law, once again, I'm not an attorney, but I would guess that you're okay as long as you applied for that permit within the 120 days. Once those permits are granted, typically what I see is that you have another 120 days to do the repairs. So you should be okay. Like I said, cities are taking forever right now with granting any sort of permits, just because everyone's doing these inspections, and it's only going to get worse. So so yeah, that's not something you can control if the city's the one that's taking a little longer.
Yeah, that seems fair, right? If you're doing everything you can, but they're the ones holding up the process, you shouldn't be
Yeah.
punished for it, I hope. Mark asking, if you have a fail, do you send the report into the city or state?
Yes, so we are legally required, right? If you have an emergency failure, we have to provide the your local jurisdiction, the report at the same time that we provide you the report. If you have a non-emergency failure, we're actually going to send that report over to your local jurisdiction within 120 days. So at that point, they're going to look at it and they're going to see, hey, did you apply for any necessary permits or did you not? As long as you apply for any necessary permits, you're going to be all good, right? If you didn't, then the city's probably going to send you a couple of letters and say, hey, you have to apply for these permits
Yeah.
now.
Okay. Hal was asking, my house has an ADU and JADU, total 3 units. The ADU has a balcony. Do I need a balcony inspection to comply with the new law? Hmm.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
My house has ADU and JADU,
Hmm.
total 3 units. The ADU has a balcony. Do I need
Okay.
a balcony inspection?
So this is
Hmm.
similar to the one earlier where I said it kind of differs on
Yeah.
jurisdiction to jurisdiction. My answer is always going to be yes, right? But if you want to be 100% sure and potentially you want to try to avoid that inspection, the only person that can that can exempt you from that inspection would be your local jurisdiction. So I would say go ahead and ask them. But my recommendation would be yes.
Great. Nikki was asking, you mentioned new software with updated laws. Do you sell it? I think she might be thinking about deposit proof, which is specifically for the security deposit law in California that goes into effect today. Is that correct?
Yes. So uh, for deposit proof, we are offering once again 6 months free, if that is what you were inquiring about. So the way that we do it is that when you sign up, you're going to register your email or phone number. We do put everyone that attended this webinar, your email and your phone number into our system, so that way if you do sign up, it's going to let you skip the payment option, and you're going to just be able to automatically get those 6 months free. So it is something that uh, it's not something that we're selling at the time. You're actually going to get 6 months free.
Very nice. Okay. Yeah, and we have five more questions left in the Q&A box. Just a reminder, please put your questions in the Q&A box and not the chat if you would like your question answered here today. Maria asking, I belong to an HOA. Do I have to do the inspection myself or does my HOA have to do it?
So it's typically the HOA as a whole that does the inspection. This is definitely the best way to handle this by far, just because if you all do your inspection together, if you all apply for your permits together, it's 10 times cheaper. If you all do your own individual inspections, it's going to be a lot more expensive. However, at this point, just because the deadline has passed, if your HOA still has not had it done, I would say do your own inspection, right? Just because at least you can say, hey, I had my inspection done. I was trying to comply. And that way, when the city does come after the HOA, you're not included in that as well.
Yeah, good advice. Pam says HOA with 40 balconies had the inspections done in February of 2024. Has taken time to determine special assessment amount, which we've started to collect. Scheduled the work to start in September. So once the work has commenced, we have 120 days to complete it.
So for HOAs, they are a lot more lenient with non-emergency repairs. So if you have a non-emergency repair, right, their cities aren't usually looking too much at HOAs and non-emergency repairs right now. It's more of emergency repairs required. But no, that was actually from when the permit was approved, right? So that deadline starts from when that permit is approved, not from when you start the work, right? At this point, your timeline is likely, going to be ending pretty soon. So I would say definitely try to wrap up those repairs. But as long as the city sees that you applied for necessary permits, they're going to be a little more lenient on you. That's really what they care about. Cities are a little understaffed right now as well, right? They don't have the manpower to go after every single HOA that is taking an extra couple of days to do their repairs, right? So as long as you're working on it, you should be okay. But I would say wrap that up as soon as you can.
Great. Viraj asking, what to do when the stairs are inside the building? Will we still need inspection?
So if they're completely enclosed, if they're on the interior, you're going to be exempt. No need for inspection. They have to be on the exterior of your building.
Okay. Gabrielle asking, what about newer builds like condos built in the last 5 years?
Yeah, so anything where the certificate of occupancy permit, after I believe it's 2021, does have a bit of an extension, right? You do have, I believe it's 6 years from the day that the certificate of occupancy permit was given or was granted. You have to have your inspection done. So you have a bit of an extension, and these laws aren't going to have the same deadline for you.
Great. Joe asking, what about an entrance stairway that's enclosed except at the entrance on a triplex?
Okay, so I'm guessing just that landing is not going to be enclosed. So once
Probably.
again, if it's enclosed, you still need an inspection, right? If it's, you know, enclosed all the way to the floor to where no one can step under those stairs, then you don't need an inspection. But if it's enclosed, that's why you have the drilling method. Now at the landing, especially if that's not enclosed, that has to be inspected as well, right? Anything, I understand the majority of that exterior elevated element may be enclosed, but it's still going to be subject to an inspection.
Hey, Deborah asking, what's the follow-up process for when the SB 721 inspection report states to have minor repairs and you make the repairs? Do you get anything in writing to supplement the report since you've taken care of the repairs noted in the report? Should the report state passed for the SB 721?
It doesn't have to say passed. That's not a requirement. What is a requirement is just make sure that you didn't need any sort of permits, right? Because there's different types of permits. Some permits, especially for those minor repairs, may not need, structural engineering drawings, but at the same time, they may need an over-the-counter quick permit, right? So if they do need something like this, make sure that you check with your local jurisdiction and you have those permits because that's how you're going to, track those. If you still don't need anything like that, typically, at least in our case, if you don't need any sort of permit at all, you're going to be borderline on the maintenance required passing instead of the failing. But if you do have one of those rare cases where it says failing, um, and they're very minor repairs, maybe there's a bunch of them together. Then at that point, I would say just keep records of all of the work that you've actually done, keep receipts and, check with your local jurisdiction and see what they want you to do.
Great. Blanca asking, do you have contractor referrals that work with your report, or will contractor do their own report?
So we do have a network of contractors that we can refer you to if needed. Now these contractors are not part of DrBalcony. They are, gathered from our clients, just feedback that we've received from them, recommendations from them. But we do have the contractors in our network won't do any sort of work without the permits, right? So they always make sure, hey, not that they don't know how to read the reports, but that's not what's needed. What's needed is the permits, the step by step. So once you have those permits, yes, you can definitely contact either a contractor in our network or your own contractor, and they should be able to pretty easily complete those repairs.
Okay. Eric asking, if in an HOA, all are 200 plus single family homes. If mine has a defined balcony, do I have to do an inspection in Southern California? The HOA is only for the pool, spas, clubhouse, green belts.
Yeah. So uh that's a great question. The Now every HOA has different contracts with their occupants, right? And their owners. So if it's not the HOA's responsibility, yeah, you still have to have an inspection done on your balcony. I would say what I've had people do before, even though it wasn't the HOA's responsibility, I would still say, hey, maybe you should all gather each other up and rally together and get that inspection done at the same time because it's just going to be a lot more efficient that way and it's going to be a lot more uniform. We've had other HOAs where, one unit did it with this company, another unit did it this way, another unit did it this other way. So now it just, it's not as nice and it was a lot more expensive down the line, right? So my suggestion is always do everything you possibly can to have the HOA do it as a whole. If you can't, then yes, comply yourself because once again, you are past that deadline. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, wonderful. That wraps up questions. Thank you for sticking around a little longer to answer so many questions. We got through a ton. So everyone, just a reminder again, we're going to be sending you the recording and slides and DrBalcony's information. That offer that you saw on the screen is still valid, and that will be in the follow-up email as well. So check that out by end of day tomorrow. You'll receive that, and hopefully you'll get your inspection, maybe check out deposit proof since that law goes into effect today, and consider Greg and I a resource for you. I also will include an invite to our next webinar and the recording for part one. This is part two, but I hope you will take a look at the part one there to see some of the other laws that we covered last week. And hopefully we'll see you all again soon. Lots of thank yous in the chat. So appreciate you all being here. Also, please take the exit survey as you leave. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this webinar and a couple other questions we have for you. So with that all said, Greg, thank you so much for coming back again. And we always appreciate you sticking around and answering so many questions. You're a great expert and resource to have about this law.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
All right. Yeah, you're welcome. Take care, everyone. Bye.